6, chapter 7, Indra offends Brihaspati. Today's texts 31 and 32. You don't write anymore?
First, next chapter, first verse? Wasn't it?
That's Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, that's true.
You don't write anymore? Or
No, I was quite busy yesterday.
maybe you can read from the book there then, and you can take this because I have my own. It's very good for us to recite the Sanskrit mantra.
Maybe we can get it from the Quran when we look together.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So, chapter 7, text 31 and 32 is what we will recite today. So we take word for word first on verse 31. Tasmat,
Tasmat,
therefore, Pitrinam, of the parents, Artanam, who are in distress, Artim, the grief, Parabhavam, being defeated by the enemies, Tapasa, by the strength of your austerities, Apanayan, taking away, Tata, oh dear son, Sandesham, our desire, Kartumarasi, you deserve to execute. So we chant it together then. Tasmat pitrinam artanam. Artim para parabhavam. Tapasapanayam stata. Sandesham kartumarasi. Please chant.
Tasmat Pitrinam Artanam Artim Paraparabhavam Tapasa Panayam Stata Sandesham Kartumarhasi
Tasmat Pitrinam Artanam
Artim Paraparabhavam
Tapasa Panayam Stata Sandesham Kartumarhasi Tasmat Pitrinam Artanam Artim Paraparabhavam Tapasa Panayam Stata
Sandesham Kartumarhasi
And we go to the translation. Dear son, we have been defeated by our enemies, and therefore we are very much aggrieved. We're going to chant one more verse. Please mercifully fulfill our desires by relieving our distress through the strength of your austerities. Please fulfill our prayers. Then next verse. Please go on text 32. Vrinimahe. We choose. Tva. You. Upadhyayam. As teacher and spiritual master. Brahmishtam. Being perfectly aware. Of the Supreme Brahman. Brahmanam. The qualified Brahman.
the qualified Brahman,
Gurum, perfect spiritual master,
the perfect spiritual master,
Yatam,
Yatam,
so that,
Anjasa,
very easily, Vijashyamaha, we shall defeat, Sapatnan, our rivals, Tava, your, Tejasa, by the power of austerity, Vrinimahe Tvupadhyayam, Bravishtam Brahmanam Gurum, Yatanjasa Vijashyama, Sapatnam Stavatejasa, Vischat,
Vrinimahe Topadhyayam, Brahmishtam Brahmanam Gurum, Yatanjasa Vijayashyama, Sapatnam Stavatejasa,
Vrinimahe Tvupadhyayam,
Vrinimahe Topadhyayam,
Brahmistam Brahmanam Guru,
Brahmishtam Brahmanam Gurum,
Yatanjasa Vijasyama,
Sapatnam Stavatejasa,
Vrinimahe Tvupadhyayam, Brahmishtam Brahmanam Guru,
Brahmishtam Brahmanam Gurum,
Yatanjasa Vijasyama, Sapatnam Stavatejasa.
Since you are completely aware of the Supreme Brahman, you are a perfect Brahman, and therefore you are the supreme spiritual master of all orders of life. We accept you as our spiritual master and director, so that by the power of your austerity we may easily defeat the enemies who have conquered us. Please repeat. Since you are completely aware of the Supreme Brahman, you are a perfect Brahmana, and therefore you are the spiritual master of all orders of life. We accept you as our spiritual master and director, so that by the power of your austerity we may easily defeat the enemies who have conquered us. Purport: one must approach a particular type of guru to execute a particular type of duty. Therefore, although Vishwarup was inferior to the demigods accepted him as their guru to conquer the demons. Om Agyana Timirandasya Giranjana Shalakaya Shakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandaham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Saganai Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanavyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Repeat the verses again. Dear son, we have been defeated by our enemies, and therefore we are very much aggrieved. Please mercifully fulfill our desires by relieving our distress through the strength of your austerities. Please fulfill our prayers. Since you are completely aware of the Supreme Brahman, you are a perfect Brahman, and therefore you are the spiritual master of all orders of life. We accept you as our spiritual master and director, so that by the power of your austerity we may easily defeat the enemies who have conquered us. There is 3 divisions of tapas, which are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Anybody remembers? Yeah?
Mind, speech, and body.
Yeah, so we'll chant this. It's in chapter 17 and verse 14 to 16. Do you have your own Bhagavad Gitas? Or
No.
you can take one if you like, if you want to chant along. So 17, 14, 15 and 16 are talking about tapa. Since tapa is the subject matter today. As we saw here, Vishwarup, he was powerful by his tapasya. Without tapasya, Prabhupada says, one cannot actually do anything. Tapasya is required for any kind of activity to be successful. 17, 14, 15 and 16.
14, 15, and 16.
But tapa is not just, as we may think, very, very kind of austere things for the body, like giving oneself voluntarily pain. No, it's much more than that. It's much more broad, as we will learn from Bhagavad Gita. So austerities of the body. Would you like to chant the first, Gabriel Prabhu? Deva Dvija Guru.
Deva Dvija Guru Prakya Pujanam Shaucham Achavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsam Cha Sariram Tapa Uchate.
Yeah, and the translation?
Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence.
So we see it's not mentioned that one has to sit in the yogic posture in the Himalayas like this. It's actually not mentioned at all. It's doing puja actually. And so that's what we do in the temple. We every day we do puja for a spiritual master. We also worship the other devotees, Kalpatrubhyascha and Kripa Sindhubhya Chapatitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. This Namo Namaha, it means I offer my obeisances. Again and again. And even the father and the mother we are worshipping. Earlier in the Vedic society, everybody was bowing down to the father and mother every morning also. And also superiors, you know, the schools, the Vedic schools, they were bowing down to the teacher. They did that. Every morning when they came to school, the pupils. And they didn't need to go to Gurukul like we have in ISKCON, we have, it's only, for learning the highest truth. But actually in the original Vedic system, you have school for everything, yeah? You have school for learning all the different arts and crafts of humanity. It can be just a school for learning to play the flute. I heard that there are also a school, there is Gurukul for that also in India. Still now there is I heard that. And other things, of course, in martial arts. There even we may have seen on some movies that they were paying proper respect to the master, bowing down to the master in the martial arts. But in all other kinds of fields also, in the beginning of the day, they came in and they were bowing down to the teacher. So you didn't need to be like a big guru like that. No, it's just proper respect to the teacher. So all that is there. And then what is other state? Cleanliness. What is a cleanliness? Well, we take shower every morning. We take shower after passing stool. We clean our hands after eating, and before eating we clean them out. These things are practically unheard of in today's society. Maybe just a shower in the morning, but many people don't do that even. They just rush to school. But actually, it's quite common actually that people don't even take bath in the morning, isn't it?
I think so.
It's quite amazing. Yeah? For us, it's like totally great. I mean, we became habituated to do this. It's just like also it's crazy for us that anybody can eat meat, But we maybe did that just a few years ago, but now it seems just totally, it seems just totally insane to do that. So in the same way, to get up in the morning and do one's activities without taking a bath is like, how can you do that? It's like, these things are necessary, and it's actually not only, this is actually not just for spiritual life, this is just to come to a human platform. This is explained in Bhagavatam when Narmuni explains the duties of the human being. He says a human being has to take bath. He has to take bath. That's a duty of a human being. And he mentions other things also this pujanam, to show the respect to the superiors. And if he doesn't do that, Narmuni ends up, he mentions something like 30 different items of austerity or duties for a human being to be characterized as a human being, because after that he says, if one doesn't do these austerities, then he's not considered to be a human being. And the Bhagavatam gives the definition then, when it's dvipada partial, it's just a two-legged animal. So we have to do austerities to come to the human platform, in other words. What is big on the spiritual platform? So, and of course you have also here brahmacharya. The translation is celibacy, and it's also practiced. For everybody who went to school before, brahmacharya was there. Nobody had a connection with the opposite sex. Even if you were supposed to be just being an expert in any kind of field, to have an education. There is separate education for the boys and the girls. Even when I was in India one time, I saw that. Still they have boys' school separate from the girls' school. Not very common, but still it is there. And then that is also human life. If brahmacharya is also not there, Narmuni says it's also not human life. And then ahimsa means non-violence. So that is also coming on many levels. Of course, we don't eat meat unnecessary. We don't kill anybody unnecessary, of course. And that also includes the insects. This thing very often in the summer there is coming some insects, and one is just, if the insect is too close, one is just like that. But the devotees don't do that. The devotees don't do this. We just try and take it away, or we even pick it up and we put it somewhere else. Even mosquitoes, we try and avoid killing them. Only if they cause a big threat to your health or something. The bee is stinging you, or one may kill it, but otherwise, it said it's one injunction in the Vedas. It says one shouldn't do violence to any living entity. It's also mentioned by Prabhupada in one place. Anybody remembers?
Nahimsha sarvabhutani.
Yes, thank you. Nahimsha sarvabhutani. Where is that? Is in the Bhagavad Gita? Right. Nahimsha sarvabhutani.
In the purport.
Yeah. So this is all shariram tapa uchate. And then next, will you read Andreji maybe? Anudvega karam vakyam.
Oh, Anudvega karam vakyam. Satyam priya hitam chayat. Swadhyaya abhyasanam chaiva. Vanmayam tapa uchate.
Jai, thank you.
And that's austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature.
Jai, thank you so much. And then next is the austerities of the mind. And maybe I can read that. Mana prasada saumyatvam maunam atmavanigra bhavasham shuddhi ityetat tapu manasam uchyate. In the translation, and satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. So, and Prabhupada is just, as a red thread throughout the whole purport, he says, what is really constituting the sum and substance, or like the essence of austerity of the mind? It is to be free from sense gratification, isn't it? It's going like a red thread to the whole purport. First it says, in the very beginning it says, to make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. And then it says, it should be so trained that it can always thinking of doing good for others. And then it goes on, and then again, a little later, one should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. Again, it says, don't have sense gratification. And again, satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. He's just repeating it again and again and again. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification. And so there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. And then we go on. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. He has now repeated it 7-8 times. And then again. Yeah. So like this. Why is this so? It is because the mind becomes agitated by actually sense objects. To give the mind a menu to choose from, it means agitation of the mind, because then it has many choices. Because what is the two functions of the mind? Yeah.
I don't remember the Sanskrit, but to accept and reject.
Accept and reject. Anybody remembers the Sanskrit? Oscar G? Yeah.
Sankalpa.
Sankalpa. What does Sankalpa mean?
It means accepting.
Yeah. Vikalpa? Rejecting. Yeah. So, because the mind can only do these things, and then it's also the place where karma haito come, where all the, it's the source of all the karma. It's all bubbling up from there. This is a karma production factory, the mind. So when it gets like a whole mind and so many things, then it's like just accepting and rejecting all the time. It's like going crazy, and then it just gets filled of all these objects. So the prescription is we should just try and have ekamana, so we just try to make the mind one, just Krishna. That's of course the big challenge. But that's actually the tapasya of the mind, the main thing. To just get free from that damn sense gratification. It's really a damn thing. Because the mind likes it. The mind likes, it immediately comes an object and it's thinking, yeah, nice. But then the mind is an agent of Maya, because it's just the advocate, like the lawyer, or is talking on behalf of the client. So the mind starts talking on behalf of the tongue. Says you should actually eat this. It's tasting very nice. Then it's like the advocate of the tongue. It's like the tongue it has paid the mind some money, has bribed some money to the mind, and it makes the mind talk on the tongue's behalf. So it says like, actually, this sweet is actually very good, and it's healthy, and it's organic and everything. So you should take some. And it's Mahaprasad, so it's nothing wrong. Actually, you're worshipping Krishna by taking these sweets. And actually, you should take a little more because you need not to do too much austerity, because then the mind becomes dissatisfied by too much austerity. You shouldn't be too hard, because the mind then also the heart becomes too hard, and you don't want to be hard-hearted. So you take some sweets and be peaceful and happy and jolly with your friends. And it's nothing wrong. In that way, it's a really good advocate, the mind for itself. And then it will say something else for other things, and we don't want to get into that. But it's, it's a rascal, okay? And it's being paid by the senses. How is the senses paying the mind? It's paying the mind by giving the mind sense gratification. So it's a conspiracy between the mind and the senses. And who are the mind and senses conspiring against? Now we come to actually the real heavy conclusion. We have a conspiracy between the mind and the senses, and also the intelligence is taking part, because the intelligence gets lusty when it's dealing with sense objects for gratifying the senses and the mind. So like this, there is a conspiracy probably explains between the senses, between the mind and the intelligence, and also the false ego is part of that conspiracy, because the ego will think I'm in the enjoyer, I'm in charge here. But then the heavy point is, who are we conspiring against?
The soul.
Huh?
The soul.
No, the soul. Well, actually, yeah, we're killing also ourselves, but actually the soul is part of it. The soul has now been infatuated by Maya. The soul is now, taking downabouts to Maya. Yeah, who are we conspiring against?
Against Krishna?
Against Krishna, yeah. It's a conspiracy against Krishna. Talk about conspiracy theories. It's really terrible. We talk about, oh, this is so bad, the conspiracy theories, the dark, sinister, secret societies, and they're just brainwashing us. They're conspiring, to have us as slaves because they're actually Satan worshippers. And they're really bad. But what about me? I have a conspiracy here. The mind and the senses and the intelligence and the ego is involved in a big conspiracy against Krishna. This is really heavy. That's a worse conspiracy. So I shouldn't at all be interested in these so-called conspiracies out there. I should look at this conspiracy going on in my heart, where the mind is an expert actor in that conspiracy, is playing the chief role. Just being the expert lawyer talking on behalf of all the senses for sense gratification. Immediately when we do sense gratification, we're making Krishna sad. We're making him sad. Because then the mind is thinking about the sense objects and not about Krishna. It's so simple. If we don't satisfy Krishna, then we don't satisfy our own self also. Then we're actually sad. So that's why Krishna says, Tapa, do tapa. Tapo divyam, he says. Do austere tapa. We have to do tapa, otherwise we're dead meat. He says, actually, he's giving the example of Lord Brahma. Who is the biggest tapasya in the whole universe? It's Lord Brahma. How long did he do tapasya? Anybody knows? Yeah?
1,000 celestial weeks?
Yeah, something like this. Yeah. It's a long time. 1 celestial year is the same as 12,000 years for our human calculation. So he did a lot of tapa, and because of that tapa, Prabhupada explains, he was able to create the whole universe. And after he did the tapa, who showed himself for him? Well, Vishnu, Krishna himself showed himself to Lord Brahma. And after he had gotten the darshan of Krishna, then he came up with the Brahma Samhita. And Prabhupada says, Brahma Samhita is the best book of all Vedic books, because it explains fully the glories of Krishna, of the spiritual abode, of everything. So Krishna says there, tapa, it is the same as my heart. He says in another place also that tapa is produced from Krishna's heart. Tapa is the most dear for me. So we will read a little from Lord Brahma's tapa experience. Brahma, he was born and he didn't see anything. It was totally dark. He was totally alone. He didn't know what to do. So he tried to find out what to do. What's the meaning of life? Who am I? Is there anybody behind this existence? And so then he engaged in thinking, and then he heard these two sound vibrations, ta and pa. That was the first sound vibration he heard. And then he just he was given intelligence by Krishna to understand that he was just to sit and meditate on this, and meditate on the source of this sound vibration. It must be the Supreme, because he didn't produce this sound vibration. It came from another source. He wanted to find out that source. He was meditating on that source. And then he did that, and then Krishna, he then manifested himself. He says here, the personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, free from all kinds of mysteries and fears of illusory existence. So Prabhupada says in the purport, the troubles of penance accepted by Lord Brahma were certainly in the line of devotional service, bhakti. Otherwise there was no chance that Vaikuntha or Svalokam, the Lord's personal abodes, would become visible to Brahmaji. And then he says, also, Prabhupada says then, according to this Bhagavad philosophy, every human being is meant simply for this tapa and for no other business. We're not meant for doing anything else than austerities. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that sound really heavy? But actually, Rishabhadevi says, because that's the incarnation of Krishna, really teaching the tapa, he says, Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudyet yasmat brahma sokyam to anantam. He ends up saying that Tapo divyam, it gives Brahma sokyam, it gives the happiness of Brahma.